Hello and welcome to the Fall Equinox palming party. This is actually the seventh palming party that I've hosted so far. I've really enjoyed getting into the routine of hosting these palming parties on the equinoxes and the solstices. Seems to be kind of a special time of year when we're going through this transition from one season to the next. And it's been really special to just sort of honor that and take some time to sit and relax and reflect. So what I'm going to be doing today is guiding you through about 20 minutes of palming and providing a little bit of a guided visualization for you with a theme around in the autumn, which is one of my favorites of year. So it's going to be a really sweet visualization we get together. Then I'm going to, after finishing palming, any kind of benefits or changes that happen on the physical level with our eyesight or on the mental level with how we're feeling and thinking. Then I'm going to stick around and take questions and answer if you have any feedback about the palming practice, the visualization process, any changes that you notice, or just anything related to natural vision improvement or the Bates method. So once again, my name is Nathan Oxenfeld, and I'm really happy that you've decided to attend my palming party. And so I figure we can just jump right into it and actually start to experience the self-healing that the Bates method can potentially provide for us. And palming is one of the most popular practices taught by the Bates method. Very simple practice. So I'm going to walk right into it and talk you through it. And maybe this is a little bit longer palming session than you might do normally. And so I'm also going to provide a couple little breaks to go to kind of stretch and make sure that your arms aren't getting tired, circulation anywhere, because we really want to achieve a state of relaxation. If a part of your body is like screaming at you because it's not comfortable, then you're probably not relaxing very much. So there's ways that you can still do a longer palming session and get that benefit from the cumulative effect without having to come out of it completely. I am going to be using my palming board. This is just a little palming stick. It's a tool that I rest on my desk here to provide a platform for my arms so that I can sit up nice and tall and get into that palming position without compromising my posture. Because we don't necessarily want to be all slouched over when we palm. That may actually constrict the circulation that we want to be encouraging up to the eyes and the brain. You could lie down on your back if that's comfortable. Ultimately, you do want to prop your arms up in some way so that your shoulders don't get tired. So whether that's putting pillows on your desk or on your lap, or some people like to stack books on top of each other so that you get that kind of firmer surface. Or you may have a tool, something like this, that you can implement. But ultimately, I just want to let you know that your palms have these healing centers in them. And by placing the center of the palm right over the center of the eye, not pushing on the eye or putting any pressure on it, but simply covering the eye so that really no light is coming in. And then I like to cross the fingers of the other hand over the forehead to create that angle for my nose to breathe. And it's all about getting into that darkness. Some people do like to rub their hands together first to generate some heat and some warmth. So you may want to activate the palms first with some rubbing or some gentle clapping or stimulation. And that's essentially gathering friction and heat and energy to these centers in your palms. And then you're going to make your way into your comfortable, supported palming position. And before we actually go into any kind of visualization, we might want to do a little physical body scan. Beginning at the crown of the head, making the way down the back of the neck, the spine, the shoulders, feeling the arms, down to the hips, down through the legs. We're just feeling if there's anywhere that is still maybe feeling kind of tight or tense or gripping. We're just going to send that intentional relaxation to that place. Just let the shoulders relax down. And once you've done a little bit of a body scan through the physical body, then you can bring your attention to your breath. And let's take some deeper inhales, exhales together. Like I said, with the hands at the angle, it should not be constricting your nasal passage so that you easily your eyes can be open or closed. I put mine closed are, but I don't want the eyes frozen. So some movements to occur in your eyes, even if you see anything. So right now we're just taking a few moments to settle in the palming position and maybe allowing the darkness to set in. Sometimes right when we go into palming, our optic nerves are still active. Our retinas are still used to receiving light and sending impressions to the brain and the mind for interpretation. And sometimes it takes a few minutes for that to calm down, for the lights and the colors and the imagery to fade into maybe a deeper, darker, calmer black color. It cannot be forced. So it's only going to get dark if you relax. And that's the purpose of the visualization that I'm going to lead you through now. The purpose of the visualization is to provide mental relaxation, which is a huge benefit to your physical eyes. So like I said, this visualization has a theme, which is the fall season or the autumn season. And we're going to take a little trip to a farm together. So in your mind, you can imagine maybe it's just you and I, or maybe it's just you, or maybe it's you and some of your other friends or family members. But you're at this idyllic farm outside. It's a beautiful sunny day, blue sky, some white puffy clouds gently floating in the distance. And also off in the distance, you start to hear a sound of a tractor engine. It's cool, crisp air. It's getting a little cooler weather outside, and when you take that big inhale, you can kind of smell the leaves. And this tractor is getting closer and closer, and you start to realize that it's an old tractor with big wheels, and there's a friendly farmer driving the tractor. He's got a straw hat on, some overalls. And behind the tractor, he's pulling a trailer that is filled with hay. So you're just observing this beautiful tractor with these big wheels pulling right up to us. And the farmer invites us to hop into the trailer. And as we get on the trailer, he hands us a hot cup of fresh apple cider. See if you can feel that warmth end as you hold that. And as you breathe in, maybe you can smell that delicious apple cider smell with cinnamon and nutmeg and that sweetness. You even take a little sip and make can imagine what that taste is like. So we're sitting on our own bale of hay in the back of this tractor. And so we can also smell that. The tractor and the farmer is taking us into the field. Nice and slowly. We're just passing various crops. There's a couple stalks of corn over there. Maybe some squash, some different kinds of gourds growing out of the ground. And this friendly farmer is taking us into a big, wide open pumpkin patch. So when he parks the tractor, we hop out of the trailer. We start to walk around, and we're going to be picking out our favorite pumpkin. So you're just kind of browsing around through the rows in the pumpkin patch, looking at the different shapes of the pumpkins. Some little small ones, and there's some bigger ones. Some of them are a little lopsided. You find the perfect pumpkin. And the farmer comes over with some shears and snips the pumpkin off the vine. And you pick it up and you get it back to the trailer with you. Gather back into the and sit back on our hay bales. There's just that really nice cool breeze as you start to make your way back from the pumpkin patch. Now, while we're riding on the back of the trailer, before we go to the next part of the visualization, let's take that little break that I mentioned. So you're going to keep your eyes closed, and you're going to keep one eye palmed, but you're going to take the other hand off of your eye, off of the face, and you're going to start to stretch that hand and that wrist. You can open your fist and close your fist. You can do some wrist circles. You can also reach that arm up towards the sky, maybe reach back a little bit, or just do some stretching of the shoulder, or maybe just let your arm kind of relax down on your lap. Maybe shrug your shoulders up and let them relax down. If you need to, you can also adjust your neck or your back, anything that just needs a little bit of movement or stimulation. Before we place that hand back over the eye and remove the other hand to do the same thing. The eyes stay closed the whole time, so just stretching that opposite hand and wrist and arm, however feels good. So by keeping one eye palmed, we're still staying partly in the darkness and still staying in the palming, so to speak. And then when we are finished stretching, then we can place both hands back over the eyes to come more completely back into the palming practice so that we can finish up our fall equinox visualization. Because now you're back home with your pumpkin. And you're going to get a pumpkin carving knife, and you're going to start to cut around the stem of the pumpkin. So finding that right angle so that when you cut through the skin of the pumpkin and you can lift that lid off, it'll sit nicely up without falling in. And here comes the fun part. You get to take your hand and reach inside the pumpkin and start to empty it out. And you can kind of slimy, and you're just out all the contents of the pumpkin. Might even want to tip it over and start to spill it out a little bit. You may even need to get like a spoon to scrape the inside of the pumpkin so that it's nice and clean and hollow. And obviously you can, as you're emptying the pumpkin, it's releasing a lot of aromas of this raw pumpkin. So once again, we're incorporating all the senses here, not just the sense of sight. So once your pumpkin is hollowed out, you get to decide what you want to carve into the side of your pumpkin. So you could either do a traditional jack-o'-lantern where you cut out some triangles for eyes and a nose and carve that mouth with the teeth into a big smile. Or maybe you want to get a little more creative and you want to carve something else into the pumpkin. It's imaginary, so you can make it look however you want. You can imagine the sound that it makes when your carving knife, the serrated edge of that carving knife, cuts through that firm outer layer of the pumpkin, that thick skin. And since this is purely imaginary, you don't have to worry about cleaning up any mess. So you can do whatever you want with it and end up with the kind of pattern or picture that you want in your pumpkin. And once you have carved your pumpkin to your liking, you're going to find a candle. You're going to gently roll it inside the pumpkin. And you're going to light it so that there's that little flame on the wick. And then you'll place the lid back on the pumpkin. And you're going to just step back and look at your creation and just enjoy how your pumpkin has this nice glow inside and it's illuminating the pattern that you carved. And you get to place it outside so you can show off your creative work to others. At this point, after palming for a little bit of an extended session, this might be a good opportunity to check in with the quality of the darkness or the color black, especially compared to when you first began palming. Sometimes when we relax the mind with a pleasant visualization like we just did, it will allow that darkness to come on its own without you even having to try. So as we begin to bring our visualizations, I'm just going to invite you to spend a moment conjuring up any other particular memories or associations you have with the fall season. Any particular sights or sounds or smells or sensations, tastes. and just see what comes up for you. As you conjure up memories and to create visualizations, can you notice any movement in your eyes? Like I said at the start, we don't want our eyes or frozen or motionless when we palm. So allow them to move. Don't force them to move, just let them move naturally the way that they want to in response to what you're thinking of. Part of the reason why it's called fall is because the leaves fall from the trees. So if you picture leaves falling from the high branches in a tree, gently floating down to the ground, you maybe want to feel your eyes pointing up and pointing that leaf down to the ground. But it's not you forcing it to move, it's just letting your eyes follow the imaginary leaf as it moves in your mind. The movement is relaxing to your eyes. So we are going to slowly to transition your palms from your face, very slowly introducing light to your closed eyes, staying relaxed, not squinting or trying to reject the light, just letting your eyes adjust nice and easily, nice and slowly. And when you feel like your eyes have pretty well adjusted back to the ambient light in your space, it's a great time to start to gently blink your eyes back open. And the instant that you open your eyes back up is a very wonderful time to check in with any changes. Like I said before, it could be a physical change. You may be experiencing light or colors differently now. You may notice a little difference in the quality or the clarity of certain objects far away or mid-range. Ultimately, though, pay attention to any mental changes or shifts in terms of how our mind is feeling, the mental state. I was preparing for this palm party and coming up with what I wanted to include in visualization. I didn't really want to leave that pumpkin patch. I just really enjoyed being in that scene and kind of tapping into those fall memories. So we just did about 20 minutes of palming, which is wonderful. If you just did that, like once a day or every other day, or even just once a week, that would lead to some pretty significant changes in how your eyes feel on an ongoing basis, and likely how they're seeing as well. This is one of the main practices that I used to. So I want to spend 20 minutes or so through the chat on YouTube and see if there's any comments, any feedback, any experience, any questions. And either list to the topics that we covered today, like relaxing, intuition, the visualization, the memory, the imagination. Or if you have any other particular questions, we can also field those as well. First of all, I just want to thank you once again for attending the palming party. I love doing these, and like I said, I'm going to keep doing them on every solstice and equinox. So the next one is going to be on the winter solstice in December in 3 months. So I don't know about you, but I was feeling a little sad to say goodbye to summer, but after our palming party today, I'm actually feeling much more happy about the season ahead. So I'm just going to go ahead and scroll on up and see where we got. So, hey, Arthur, thank you. It was awesome to meet you recently, and glad you could be here today. Cool. Yeah, my summer did go well. I did my best. This was my first full summer in Vermont, so I definitely wanted to capitalize on and get as much sun as I could before the winter comes again. So, where do you get that palming stick from? I've heard of palming stick, sometimes people call it, from my colleague Esther Joy Vanderwerf. She's a Bates Method teacher in Ojai, California. She's also my co-host of the Better Eyesight podcast. She sells them on her website, visionsofjoy.org. Also, one of my students made her own version out of PVC pipes, because that's made of PVC pipe, except it's got a padding on top. So it is something that you could kind of craft yourself, but if you just want to keep it simple, you can just order one from Esther. Bethany said, I'm going to do this exercise before going to bed tonight. That's a perfect time to palm. Sometimes people feel like, oh, well, I'm really busy and I don't have time to do the Bates method, but we all go to sleep at night, and that's actually a very conducive time to palm your eyes, because it can actually prevent your eyes from straining overnight. This was one thing I wasn't aware of before I learned about the Bates method, is that you can actually, just like you can grind your teeth and have like clenching jaw while you sleep, you can also tense and tighten your eyes unconsciously while you sleep. And then you wake up with eye strain and your vision problem is still there. So if you palm your eyes as you transition into sleep, you're actually reducing the chances of straining while you're sleeping. And then you may even wake up the next morning with better feeling eyes and better seeing eyes. So, there were many nights where I palmed myself to sleep. So definitely try that out. Cool. Miss Jordy C says, happy equinox, everyone. I'm dedicating this season to building my eye exercise routines, really build a new lifestyle for building small habits. Love that. And I like you mentioned both the exercise routine and the lifestyle aspect and the habits, because what I want to just convey is how the practices or the exercises are pretty much simply designed to teach you a vision habit. So what did we just do today? We did the palming practice. I don't like to really use the word exercise, because we're not exercising when we palm, we're relaxing. So when we do the palming practice, what is the habit that is teaching us? Hopefully it's teaching us the habit of relaxation, because relaxation is a habit, just like strain, opposite relaxation, is also a habit. We habitually strain our eyes. So if we can palm our eye as a practice to let go of the old habit of strain and start to introduce this new habit of relaxation, then eventually you don't need to palm anymore. You don't have to do the practice as much, because you or in other words, like you said, lifestyle, a new way of habitually using your eyes. So yeah, definitely glad that you're aware of both aspects of that. And that's good for everybody to realize that at some point, you do not need any vision practices anymore. You have adopted the right of proper vision habits. And that's really what the Bates method is all about. Yeah, and somebody had mentioned there was some buffering going on. And so, yeah, my partner Emma chimed in and said, working on improving the Wi-Fi. So thank you, Emma, for hopefully getting the connection stronger. And really glad you could join our palming party today too. Unfortunately, I do not speak Turkish, Ayla, but I do have a colleague who is a Bates method teacher in Istanbul, Turkey, named Gulay. And so, yeah, that's a great resource to learn the Bates method in your own language and really maybe even have some local help from a teacher in your area. Arthur said, I have trouble cutting out 100% of the light when palming. Is it better to do the palming in a darkish room to help make it darker? Yeah, kind of like the mention of doing the palming from Bethany about doing it in bed at night in a dark room. That way, even if you aren't getting that 100% seal, it isn't really that noticeable because it's already dark anyway. You know, sometimes people palm, like they'll lay maybe like a cloth or a towel or some sort of fabric over their palms so that it's not like you still have that direct skin to skin contact, which is really important for the palming. But then you have that extra layer on top of that would then, you know, cut out any other extra light if you're not in a dark room. But also, eyes while you should also, you know, cut out any little percentage of light that is leaking through. Yeah, and Super Posse 7 said, is it okay if I don't see 100% dark when palming? I'd say about 1% light gets through the finger cracks. So yeah, similar kind of question there. But ultimately, what I want to say to that is that actually both of those questions are coming from a place of eyesight. Right? Your physical eye organ are sensing physical light, right? That's one side of it. But what about the pumpkin and the farm? That's not physical. That's mental. So it's kind of the same thing with the black is sometimes it's not just about physical color black and the ability to cut out all the light physically. We're actually improving our ability to imagine a particular color like black, even if our retinas are sensing light. So in other words, I want you to think about the mental side as well, where you're actually working on seeing black with your mind's eye, not just seeing black with your physical eye. Paul wants to be choppy audio and video. Yeah, we'll see how it turns out in the replay. But yeah, ML is asking about, will you replay this YouTube video? So yeah, after this live video ends, I can go back to the farm if you want. And you can also find the previous 6 palming parties on my YouTube channel as well that I've done over the past couple of years. Paradigm Zero asks, when you started Bates, did you go black or darkness? I used to be able to see darkness or black when younger, but it seems to have turned into a reddish haze. My answer is no, I did not immediately see that super deep dark black color. I was aware of it because I read Dr. Bates's book, Perfect Sight Without Glasses, and he suggests this notion that your ability to imagine the blackness is actually a gauge of your relaxation. So if it's perfect black, that's perfect relaxation. That's deep relaxation. If there's a reddish haze, if there's any lingering colors or imagery, or sometimes what I experience is almost sort of like a little bit of a flicker effect. It's almost like a flickering light almost. These are all signs, according to Dr. Bates, of mental strain. And probably also some physical strain as well. So that's why I said at the beginning, it's really not about trying to force that reddish haze to become black, because that's just going to be you straining. So instead, if you can focus on the visualization or, some other, deep breathing or some way to calm your nervous system down, you're going to maybe notice that red haze color may start to darken and transform into that kind of blacker color. But everybody is different, and everybody has their own unique way of playing with this. So I think it's good that you're aware of what you're observing and noticing. And it's not necessarily about, like I said, forcing it to try and change, but just continuing to observe what happens. And as you really, practice it more and more, you may notice that you get to that darker, blacker place easier and faster. Yeah, Titus, I think saying I woke up with both my hands on top of my head. So I don't know if you're talking about maybe like falling asleep palming and then you wake up in a different position or something. But Fiona asked, do you put pillows under your arms when you palm yourself to sleep? I find it difficult to cover my eyes and be relaxed in my arms. So yeah, usually if I'm palming in bed, I'll either do it on my back, and yes, I'll prop pillows under my arms, or sometimes I'll do it on my side and I'll put a pillow in between my arms. So you can kind of play around with it and see what feels comfortable. Keep in mind also, you're always welcome to just do one eye at a time. If it's hard to do both eyes at the same time and you feel like that's kind of tense, you can maybe just try one and then switch and kind of balance it out that way. So you can keep it flexible. Yeah. Kadayun said, enjoyed palming with you all anyway. No discernible audio, but that's Mercury retrograde for you. Thank you, Nathan and Emma. There's like 6 planets in retrograde right now. So yeah, rolling with the punches. Oh, awesome. Wanda said, thanks for this palming party. Colors appeared more vivid after. I noticed the same thing. Right when I came out of palming, it seemed like there was more of a vibrancy or kind of a pop to the colors for me. Yeah. And Fiona's just kind of echoing what Melody C said about dedicating this season to building small eyesight habits. I think that's the way to do it. Little baby steps, not overloading yourself with too much at once, and really just keeping yourself focused as you go and staying consistent with it. It's really just about getting regular with some of these practices and techniques. Hey, good morning, Greg. Kathy asked, is a heated eye mask an option instead of palming? It is an alternative. It's an option, but I like to say it's not a replacement. So, like having a heated eye mask is really nice because that's kind of what you get from the palms, that nice heat. But what you don't get is the skin-to-skin contact and the self-healing intention coming out of your own hand into your eye, into your brain. So, I would still do both. And sometimes the heated eye mask or other ways to do it kind of more hands-free, they do allow you to maybe go a little bit longer than maybe with your hands and your palms if you do feel like your arms get tired. But I still would always keep up some regular palming practice on a regular basis. Hey, June. Yeah, I agree. The colors and activities of this season, probably my most favorite palming party visualizations. I'm inspired to bathe in these colors and visions during this autumn. Yeah, that's kind of what I've been finding from these palming parties is really just like making sure we're like connecting with nature, and really tuning into the rhythms of the seasons and time passing and us moving through life and through space, and just bringing a little bit more mindfulness and intentionality to it. Very good question, Arthur. Is vision improvement harder in the fall and winter with less natural light opportunities? I do think there are seasonal cycles to vision. And, I just said, these parties to connect. And I like this concept of biomimicry, where we look to nature, we look to biology, and we observe what nature does throughout the seasons. We look at ourselves and realize I'm nature, we're nature, we're separate from it. And so we go through similar seasonal patterns and cycles. And, winter is, or for that high state, summer, brighter, green growth, energy. So I did notice that in myself, where I did seem to be having kind of like better progress or better vision in the, spring and summer. And then in the dead of winter, it's definitely felt like I wasn't maybe making the same type of growth or progress that I was making in the height of summer. But it's the Bates method and natural vision improvement is kind of it's an annual, year-round kind of thing. So if anything, you can simply modify your approach. And, maybe in the summertime, you're prioritizing more light therapy and outdoor time and that type of, thing. Whereas maybe in the winter, it's a little more kind of, maybe you're doing more palming or more kind of things with the darkness, and really honoring that time, kind of go within and reflect on your inner vision, and even like using time to investigate some things like underlying root causes to your vision problems and, processing emotional things. So yeah, it's not that it's harder per se, but it might be different. I think it's good to recognize that we are part of nature, go through fluctuations, and we're fluid just like everything else. And so maybe we shouldn't necessarily expect ourselves to just be exactly the same summer, fall, winter, spring. So, awesome question. Yeah, once again, I apologize for any connection issues if anything got interrupted, if that kind of got you out of focus. But Hearts and Goldenrod said, I just did my own thing and just finished. We'll have to catch it again tomorrow. So yeah, hopefully the recording or the replay comes through clearly, but we shall see. If not, once again, I'll be doing another one on the winter solstice, and you'll have another opportunity as well. Oh, I'm glad you like that tip, Fiona, of remembering to maybe just try and palming on one eye at a time, and realizing that still the same practice, you still can get the same benefit. And honestly, sometimes I'll palm one eye just as I'm like working on the computer or, reading something or watching something on a screen, and then just switching. And it's like, that way, because palming, you can't really do anything else other than visualize. But if you palm one eye at a time, you can actually be kind of maybe staying more active. So definitely something to explore. Oh yeah, and Hearts of Goldenrod's also saying yes. Yes Theory did a session about being in total darkness for 5 days straight. Not sure if I mentioned it to you or not, but definitely a cool video to check out. Yeah, that a couple people have done things like that. Aubrey Marcus also did like a documentary where he spent, I think, 7 or 10 days in the dark. And if I'm remembering correctly, some people have even used that therapy, that dark therapy, to actually reverse certain vision problems as well. So, and I mean, that's essentially what palming is you're in the dark and giving your eye, not only your eyes, but your brain a chance to rewire and maybe form some new habits. So, but I don't think I've seen the Yes Theory video. So yeah, I'll look into that. Appreciate it. Cool. Yusuf Sarasoy says, I lowered my myopia just by my habits, mostly, and relaxing. My astigmatism stays the same. Get rid of astigmatism. Either read that or hear that. The fact that the myopia can be lowered because of central fixation and shifting. If you're not familiar with central fixation, definitely watch some of my other videos about it. Because that really is the fundamental principle of the Bates method, and it's, in my opinion, what leads to the most changes and improvements or refractive errors, both myopia. So not only do I want you to keep pursuing that central fixation and the shifting, but primarily that shifting and the swinging is one of the things that I really used for my astigmatism. And I'll use the moon as an example, because when I would look at the moon in the sky, my myopia would have made it just one blurry moon, but my astigmatism made multiple moons. So I could see like 4 or 5 or 6 moons at a time, kind of overlapping with each other. So a couple ways that I got the astigmatism to decrease was I would close my eyes and I would think about one moon, because I knew that there wasn't really 6 or 7 moons, and I would swing it. And what that means is I would think about the left edge of the moon and then the right edge of the moon, and I would let my attention switch or shift from the left side to the right side of that ball in the sky. Sometimes I would go from the top of the moon to the bottom of the moon, back and forth. And then I would allow that type of thinking and that type of eye movement and shifting to continue when I opened back up. And when I would be shifting on the moon, it generally kept it a little bit more contained into one moon. But when I would start to stare, which is like the lack of shifting, and I would just try and focus on the whole moon, which is like the lack of central fixation, that's like diffusing, then guess what? The astigmatism would come right back and the multiple images would reappear. So I would close my eyes and I would go back into the swing, back into the of the one moon, and open back up and try for a few seconds with the eyes open. So you can do it with charts. You can notice the astigmatic images on. But ultimately, Dr. Bates had one particular tip about astigmatism, to practice ignoring astigmatic images. So when I would see my astigmatism, I would recognize that, oh, there's that shadow or that multiple effect, but then I would immediately ignore it. And I would focus in on the true image, the one object, which sometimes is easier than others. With the moon, it was fairly easy because I knew that the brightest circle was the real moon, and then the kind of dimmer or more like transparent or see-through looking ones were the astigmatic moons. So I would have to practice really ignoring them and focusing on the one that I knew was actually the real one, not only with my eyes open, but also with my eyes closed, like I mentioned, of really thinking in that more singular way. So it's definitely a combination of you continuing your good habits, like the central fixation and the shifting, but there's also this important mental aspect of, am I actually ignoring the astigmatic images, or am I continuing to think about them all the time when I see them? So it's a little tricky, but I mentioned Esther earlier, who I got my palming board from. I have a great interview with her on YouTube about reversing astigmatism naturally, and we spend like an hour going through that whole topic together. So if you haven't seen that or heard that yet, definitely check that out. Hey, Melanie, sharing interesting observation after palming today is that I'm noticing what more relaxed eyes feel like, and the moment they start to strain, it's more noticeable. I think what also helped is that I didn't try to visualize what you were saying, but I let it happen. So I think that first comment is really important, because I'm right there with you. I did not know what relaxed eyes felt like, because I was only feeling strained eyes for like 15 years. And that was just what I was so used to, because I had myopia and astigmatism and glasses and contacts, and they were just keeping that eye strain in there. And so it really wasn't until I started practicing the Bates method and the palming and the swinging and the sunning and all this stuff that I started to have these little glimpses and these moments of, whoa, this is a new sensation. I haven't felt this way before in my eyes or in my mind. And if we need to have those experiences to know what we're actually looking for here as just the baseline normal state of the eyes, and your ability to catch the strain sooner is critical. Because sometimes I call the strain, silent killer. Eye strain is a silent killer because we walk around with it all day long and we don't realize it. And so for you to realize it and catch it, and then actually know that this isn't right, relaxation is right. And if you have an experience of relaxation, then you have a reference point to get back to that, hopefully more and more and more. Nolly also said, Esther also suggests you can use a sweater to hold your arms while palming lying down. Put your arms through the arms of the sweater so it holds your arms up. We might need a little demonstration of that, I think, but that sounds cool. I've also heard of people using a belt, either like just a regular belt or like a yoga strap, so that you would lie on your back like this and like tie a belt around your arms so it keeps them together. Or you can like let them, against the pressure of the belt, and then you can relax. So yeah, there's definitely ways that we can get creative to find our ideal palming positions. Oh, I also just wanted to touch on what you said there, Nalini, of like, when we try to visualize, it might just not work. But if we allow it or we let it happen, then the images might come through. So that's a really good point too. SJK27, how many days a week and how much time per day would you recommend palming? I like it when people, so what we did today might be a little bit, it might not be your daily thing. I think what maybe your daily thing would be like maybe 1 or 2 minute palming sessions at a time, more frequently throughout the day. Sometimes there was a part of my vision journey where I was palming for like between 1 and 5 minutes at the top of every hour, right? So 12 o'clock, palm, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock. Other times a little bit longer, but just building those breaks into your everyday life is going to make a big difference. And so, especially with screen time, if you work on a screen, for work or for school or even just for leisure, definitely give your eyes the gift of a break. And time to rejuvenate and refresh so they can keep going for you. So ideally, this can be something that you do every day, but it is also totally fine to take some days off, or, stress yourself of like yourself to do it even when you don't want to. It should be something that you actually look forward to, especially into the and kind of like I said, I don't want to leave that much because it just gives me this, warm, fuzzy feeling. Does anyone's eyes start to hurt when you go to sleep? I was kind of mentioning that earlier about the phenomenon of straining while we sleep. And I think probably maybe more do that than they realize. And because we're unconscious, we don't really know what we're doing. So that's why some really slow swinging and some nice palming before bed can really do some nice success and maybe decrease any kind of pain or discomfort when you're going to sleep, because that can make it harder to fall asleep if you have that tension hanging on in the eye muscles. Yeah, I would be afraid of overdosing on total darkness. We were talking about multiple days in the dark for too long after hearing what Ray Gottlieb said about the cones attaching the retina. I guess if you do that, make sure you get plenty of sunlight after. Yeah, it's, I've never done that. I've never done multiple days in total darkness, and I don't have a ton of experience on that. But yeah, in general, I mean, the eyes need light. And so, yeah, you would think you would want to kind of balance it out. And, but yeah, like I said, I might look into that video and see what they did with it. Happy birthday, Total Todd. Cool. Betty Buckets Drumming says, watching from England, though I am from Hungary. My optician doesn't believe in this method. I want to prove the naysayers wrong. Yeah, it's it's a mixed bag. You're gonna find eye doctors who are either not aware of the Bates system. You're gonna find some who are and they're opposed to it, but you're also some that are aware of it and they embrace it. So I think those kinds of people that we should be the people who really empower us to own health and healing into our own hands. And they are out there, but there's plenty more who are just kind of sticking to the status quo and staying in that traditional let's treat the symptoms approach as opposed to let's actually investigate the root causes. So actually, one of these eye doctors is on my podcast I'm going to be putting out this week. I interviewed Dr. Sam Byrne, and he's an optometrist and really all about also. Hopefully, me introducing you to people like this, like Ray Gottlieb, they're really special people, and we should really out and bring them, because I feel like they're the way of the future. Getting some comments saying that the stream is no longer active, so I think, and we're just coming up an hour, so I think this will be the of Fall Equinox palming party. Once again, I really want to thank you for attending. Sorry if you couldn't through it all at any point. If it's any better, if not, we'll try again in a few months for our Winter Solstice palming party. So stay tuned for that. Make sure you're subscribed to my YouTube channel if you're not already. That's the best way to get notified when I go live and when new videos get released. I do want to invite you to, we're having our big Natural Vision Improvement Day on Saturday, October 15th. And that's going to be 7 speakers and a vision teacher panel. It's like an all-day event from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. So that's Saturday, October 15th. I'll put the link to that in the description of this video and my other videos. So that should be a really fun time, and you're going to get a lot of really powerful information from multiple vision teachers, some of which are eye doctors like Dr. Mark Grossman, Dr. Jacob Lieberman. And so, yeah, we're going to have a lot of fun next month with that event. And otherwise, just keep your eyes peeled for some more YouTube videos, Naked Eye episodes, Better Eyesight podcast episodes, and we'll keep this conversation going about natural vision improvement. So keep up the good work. Have a lot of fun doing your palming and visualizing. And I will look forward to seeing you at our next palming party.